afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. D here with DCT Consulting, also known as Driven LLC. You'll see that term interchangeable. It's the same company, same business. Happy Monday. It is Monday, March 18th. And I'm just hopping on to hear what are your thoughts? What are you thinking about the topic? And the purpose of today and getting on with you wonderful people is to talk about things that are impact topics that are impacting us as educators, as school leaders, as teachers, specifically with the lens of a school leader. And so if you're listening to me for the first time, my name is Dr. D, and my passion is empowering urban school leaders to lead with confidence so that they can transform the instructional culture and feel affirmed in the work that they do. And I do that by looking at every single thing that's in your school as a piece of data and how we're using that data, right? It is very, very powerful. And so, as a product of an advocate of public education, I believe we have the power to change all the systems that are continually oppressing our marginalized students, our Black and Brown babies. And so we have to be, as Margaret Wheatley says, brave enough to have the conversations that matter, to start the conversations that matter. And I add on to that, like courageous enough to actually create the disruption that's needed to change the current conditions. Okay, and the time is now. And so the goal of today is to connect current research and its impact on leadership and to show how school leaders can develop a lens for looking at data to actually inform how they lead, right? To develop the lens for data as a necessary practice to become a change agent in this work. Okay. It's moving from being reactive to proactive in the work and dismantling the status quo that we're currently under. And I believe together we do this, the knowledge is in the room and we have the power in our hands. So it's just about strategically going about it and having conversations. Because I don't know about y'all, but when I have conversations about this stuff, when I'm talking to other people, that's when things start to click, right? So let's get into it. There's an article here I want to share with you um, that it's the review of evidence about equitable school leadership, right? So we're talking this week about um, changing the narrative for kids, right? And how do we go about changing the narrative for kids? And a lot of times that sense of urgency creates a disconnect between what we say and what we do because we're moving so fast that we skip the most important pieces, and those little pieces in between become larger gaps. That piece is relationships, right? And so, taking a look at this review, just to give you a little background about the review, it is a study that was conducted in 2021, and as you can see here, it's the results of 63 empirical studies, right? Um, Quantitative and mixed method studies, um, and the results that they found are things that you won't be surprised, right? They're like best practices of school leaders in serving as a change agent, right? And so before I get into some of the data and like the pieces that they shared in this research, my question for you is like, what if you could ignite like that spark to change your school in just one action today? Like, what would that be? Like, think about that for a second. If you could, like, whatever could ignite that spark to get your school moving in the direction you wanted to, what would that be? No, like, without any restrictions, what would that be? One thing. And so we talk about changing the narrative for Black and Brown kids, and that requires consistency, right? And it requires systems and consistency in using those systems. And so this article um, talks about some of those systems that I'm constantly referring to. If you follow me or have watched anything that I've posted or shared, that I'm constantly referring to. Okay, so imagine the possibilities, right? Based on that question, like that one action. Imagine the possibilities as we dig into the findings of this study. So, one of the things that they talk about, of like the purpose of the research, is core leadership practices and equitable schools, right? And like what that looks like. And so there's some things that I need to lift up for you that was so like just popped out for me is like the leaders' dispositions here, right? The leaders' dispositions they found among these articles, what they found was that the cognitive, social, and psychological resources, as well as values and ethics, were present in a lot in the majority of the studies. Right? It is values. I talk about values all the time and how you have to lead with your values. A value led practice will keep you grounded, it'll keep you authentic, and it'll actually help you build relationships with your staff. Another piece here, social resources largely encompass in most accounts of the social appraisal skills or emotional intelligence include the leader's ability to perceive the emotions of others, right? Manage their own emotions and act in emotionally appropriate ways. Many decisions faced by leaders are ethical dilemmas. We know this. And almost all decisions are influenced in one way or another by the leader's values. Okay? Like it's and this is where you're disconnecting, you operating like you're feeling like you're not operating in harmony is because of this disconnect with your to your values. And so I want to dig into some of the things that they found, and we will not have an opportunity to go through them all just because it's very extensive. But I do want to take a look at um, I want to list the 5 things that the article says in terms of what they found in the study. The 5 things that they found. One is setting direction. The school leader uh, successful school leaders, when they are changing the narrative for kids and creating equitable environments, in all of the articles, all of the research, which happen to be all qualitative, by the way, um, and mixed method, but no quantitative, which is interesting. Um, but setting directions was one thing, one action. Building relationships and developing people, right? Building their capacity, which is what we talk about a lot, and designing the organization to support desired practices. This is systems. What systems do you have in place that will meet your goals? The fourth one was improving the instructional program, right? So these are informal observations, your what like curriculum are you using or program are you using, and like having that well-rounded, again, a system in place for that. And then securing accountability. So there were 5 things that came out of these 63 like 63 studies. Those were the 5 things: setting directions, building relationships, and developing people, which is capacity. Designing the organization to support desired practices, which is systems. Improving the instructional program, which is teaching and learning, right? And the whole process for that. And then securing accountability. Like the adults have to be held accountable. Unfortunately, we're not seeing that. And that needs to change. That's one of the first things that needs to change in order for us to really change this narrative for kids, like we talk about, right? But we don't have time to go through all 5. So I'm only going to lift up one. And I'm going to lift up the first one, which is setting directions, having clarity, right? So, in setting a direction, there were 4 subsets to that. The 4 subsets to setting direction were building a shared vision, right? So have you ever considered what could happen if the whole school came together for like creating the vision? A lot of times schools will do it at the beginning of the year, brainstorming, plotting like on a community board or something like that, or talking it through, and then it happens at the beginning of the year and you don't hear about it again. Or you'll see the vision plastered in the hallway, but you're not really living the vision. Right. So this is it. Like, how are we living that vision? So connect this crafting this collective vision requires a school leader, you, to be clear on what your values are. What are the values that are driving you? And how does that feed into the vision that you have for the school, right? And how are you including your staff in that? Let them connect to their values and to help create this collective vision for the school, right? So the practice of leading by your values and the team leading by their values allows you to be grounded in the work, right? Like, okay, this is what we said we were going to do. And time and reflection are necessary to build that vision. So that's one part of setting directions, building a shared vision, and make sure it is you are living it. Like, not only is it on the walls, but you're actually living it. When you're having conversations, you're asking the question, how does this connect to our vision? How does this connect to the vision that we have as a school and the goals that we set? If it doesn't, you're not talking about it, right? That's the whole de-implementation, that decluttering process that I've been talking about. You have to have, even if you have to put a post-it up in your office, like, how does this relate to the vision? Anytime someone's coming up with something, how does this relate to the vision? How can this support and live in the vision? Okay. The second part under setting direction is identifying specific shared goals, right? The research says identify specific shared goals, specific shared short-term goals, right? Because you want to be able to meet those, right? So what about the impact of like a goal of the month or something like that, where each classroom is like championing a specific tangible goal, right? And your data team's process can help with that, right? Where you're sharing the goals. Um, and everyone is sharing the progress that they're making toward meeting that goal. So it's a collective celebration, right? Um, and the word shared here is also like, I want you to see this theme. Like in the first part, building a shared vision, and the second part, identifying specific shared goals. Like as the leader, we know that you're at the helm, but you have to include all of your staff so that they feel that it's their school too. Not that they just work there, but they take ownership in everything that's happening. From setting the goal to creating the vision, all of those pieces are connected, right? It requires collective effort and voice and clarity. It provides clarity for you and your staff to know which direction you're going, right? So have those short-term goals that you are celebrating and sharing. No one's working in their silos. Everyone's sharing and celebrating it. The third thing is create a high performance expectations, right? Like that should just be, I don't know any other way to say that. And I think that what I've been experiencing is, unfortunately, in a lot of schools, high expectations are not there. And so when we are performing at a mediocre level, we get mediocre results. And a lot of that has to do with the first two pieces, which is the vision clear? Is it articulated consistently? Are the goals in alignment to the vision, right? How are we holding people accountable to meeting those goals? How are we celebrating our staff and our school when they are meeting those goals, right? And so having like creating these high performance expectations, like you can create a spotlight for like celebrating when a class or a grade level is moving toward a goal, right? So it's like saying, look at this, we can all achieve this same thing. In As a principal of a school, a pretty large, a very large elementary school in Baltimore, one of the things that helped shift the dynamics and help staff begin to talk about what data is and what it looks like and become comfortable with it. Because I'll tell you something, a lot of people aren't comfortable with talking about data, right? They're just not. They know how to collect it, but they don't know what to do once they collect it. And so the shift in the building required putting data in their faces. And that was the vision that I had for the schools, that I wanted our school to be a vision, a data focused school, right? And the short-term goals were building building the capacity of my staff using the data teams process. And the way I celebrated that, like creating these high performance expectations, was in our collaboration room, which we called the collab room. In the collab room, where we had our data teams meeting for every grade level had a thermometer with the goal that each team set. And each week, when they came back after progress monitoring, it we would move that thermometer up to where they are in terms of meeting that goal. So all the other grade levels saw every grade level's goal and where they are in meeting it. So naturally, you know how educators are. Sometimes we're competitive. We're like, oh no, I'm not going to let the first grade beat us. Come on, second grade team. What do we got to do? Let's get it right. It builds a really healthy a healthy competition, um, and whatever it takes to get staff like really digging in toward meeting the vision, meeting the goals that meet the vision, and it's healthy and it's productive. It's a win-win. And so the collab room became the data room as well, because this is where we had conversations. We met and we talked about, learning standards and where students are meeting the learning standards, and how do we know, how does this relate to our vision? How do we need to adjust the goals so that it is connected to our vision? And so keeping it consistent, in like consistently and visible, like having that constant conversation, keeps people focused on how are we meeting the goals that are meeting the vision. Okay. That is creating high performance expectations, because you're making it one public, right? And you as the school leader are holding them accountable for it. The fourth thing under setting direction is communicating the vision and the goal. Right. Like there was a post I shared a while ago about, if the vision is in your head, no one, like, it's not doing anything. It's for naught if you don't share the vision that you have in your head and heart. So communication is absolutely paramount here. Like, so thinking about like a newsletter, or somewhere where you can celebrate the wins that are mentioning the goal, making the mark toward the vision, um, it was really helpful. I started out with a newsletter where the mission and vision were in the school newsletter all the time, and um, celebrations toward how staff were using data in their classrooms, and not just numbers, but data is all around you, right? There's qualitative data like the study, right, that doesn't really have to do with numbers, and then there's quantitative data, um, and so we use them both in our newsletter to get staff used to hearing the word data. Ooh, they got so sick of it. But I tell you what, by the time we were done with that data teams process, our school was a model school for how to implement the data teams process. We had it down to a science. Okay. Yes, I'm tooting my own horn. It was absolutely amazing. The dream team made it happen. It was the synergy was amazing. So, anyway, going back to communicating the vision and the goal. Can um, When you are clear about your vision and your goal, and communicating it all the time in not only words but your actions, right? Like, you have to consistently communicate that by modeling it. And that's something that the research article talks about as well, is like communicating that vision by modeling it yourself, and modeling everything that you are expecting your staff and students to do. As the leader of the school, you have to model that for them, right? So you're operating as one. I had a policy that cell phones were not supposed to be in use, right? And as a result of that, my cell phone stayed in my office. I didn't walk around with my cell phone. I didn't I had a walkie. We had all of the leadership team members had walkies. So that's how we communicated with one another. If my daughter had to call, she knew to call the school, the front desk, and they would call me on the walkie. So I had to model that, right? So that when I actually see staff with it and I approach them and say, the policy is no cell phones. I don't even have mine. What do you say to that? Right? If I'm the school leader and I'm saying to you, and reminding you politely, hey, but our policies, no cell phones. Put that away. Can you put that away, please? I don't even have my cell phone. You can't like that's why modeling and walking the talk is so critical for your staff to build trust and build relationships with your staff, right? So you're communicating the goal in various ways, you're communicating the vision in various ways, and it has to be consistent and clear. And this clarity will help you become a more confident leader. Um, and so, if you're watching the replay, share some thoughts on this because I really want to get us grounded in how we are using data. There's something else I wanted to show you, but it's all the way down here. I think that's right here. Oh, I can't find it now. Oh well, because it wasn't meant to be. But I will put this article, the link to this article, in the comments if you are interested in taking a look at it. I would love for you to hear your thoughts on the article and the pieces. And you know, just to recap, I just want to be like to make sure that you're clear on what this article is stating. So there are 5 things that the article realized out of the 63 empirical research studies. There are 5 things that a school leader needs in order to be the change agent, be the change agent for their school, right? To shift this paradigm and change the narrative for Black and Brown kids. Setting directions, building relationships and developing people, designing organizations to support the desired practices, improving instructional programs, and securing accountability. Because of the time, I only went through the first one, which is setting directions, and that had a subset of 4. Building a shared vision, right? Identifying specific shared short goals, right? Creating high performance expectations, and then communicating the vision and goal. And I will say for all 4 of those subsets of setting direction as a school leader, consistency is key here. This is where the systems come in place, which is number 2, which we didn't get to, right? But consistency is key here. Setting direction really is about building the relationships. It really is about how you are connecting your core values into your vision and your goals. Now remember, the first step that you can take is put a post-it up everywhere. How does this connect to the vision of the school? Right? That's one way of practicing decluttering when you're having conversations that have nothing to do with the vision of the school or how it's connected to the vision of the school. You put it off to the side. You delegate that to somebody else to take care of, right? So that you're prioritizing what everything that is related to the vision of your school. And so um, let me know your thoughts. Let me know how, like, what are some of the things you want to begin doing in your school? Share it in the comments below. I would love to continue the conversation to see how we can just continue to talk about it because that's where the learning occurs is in conversation. So, um, yeah, hit me in the comments. Let me know. I'm going to put the link and I will see you next Monday for another. What are your thoughts? And you know what? If you have any ideas about a topic, I'll do some research on it and talk about that. So, um, let me know if you have any ideas for a topic and we can hop on and discuss it. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week and take care of yourself. Keep going, school leaders. We need you.